Well, they have won ball games in the 9th inning with 2 out and nobody on. But this is one of the most important games they have played all year. Watching the left fielder Paciorek giving chase. No, sir, he can't get it. It is a double for Dan Ford, who almost fell down on his way to second base on the sloppy infield, and it looks like he's hurt his leg. And they'll get a pinch runner for Dan Ford, and Ripken will come to the plate. Is it in there for the base hit? It is. The Orioles are still alive. Landrum scores, and it is 2-1.
Now Ripken, left ball inside. He fought it off and looped the fly ball to left center field. Makes it 2-1, and Eddie Murray comes to the plate.
That's the force at second base, and the game is over. Well, the White Sox have done what they wanted so desperately to do. They have come to Baltimore and have won the opening game.
This is a Channel 2 sports special. Orioles on deck, chasing the American League pennant, with your hosts, John Saunders and Scott Garceau.
Good evening and welcome once again to Memorial Stadium. John Saunders along with Scott Garceau. Game 2 of the American League Championship Series. We all know in the sporting world, Scott, there are very many cliches. We've got a lot of them for tonight.
Yeah, do or die, I guess. Play them one at a time, all that kind of stuff. But kind of a crucial, almost a do-or-die situation, John. No team has ever gone into its opponent's backyard down 2-0 in a championship series like this and won 3 straight on enemy territory. So tonight, needless to say, is a very big game. Not so much for the White Sox, but for the Orioles, of course.
We still have to be impressed, though, by both these teams. The looseness, that the feeling that is out on the field that, hey, this is just another game in some ways.
Yeah, I think both teams are fairly calm. The Orioles have more experience dealing with this situation. Of course, yesterday's win had to relax the White Sox, at least tell them inside that, yeah, we're as good as we thought we were. I think they had kind of an inner confidence. Now it's a little more on the outside. One lineup change tonight, John. We won't see Dan Ford out in right field. He has that right foot injury, a bruise. He re-injured it yesterday, hurt it on the weekend. Tito Landrum, who made, I think, 5 starts for the Orioles this year, none out in right field, will be there tonight. And if anybody has any butterflies tonight, I would have to think it's Tito, who's done a good job since he got here in late August.
Tito Landrum has done a nice job, of course. They need that right-handed bat in against the left-hander Floyd Bannister. Yesterday, of course, as we all know, it was Hoyt doing a tremendous job against the Orioles. Let's go back now and take a look at the highlights. 51,000 on hand at Memorial Stadium for Game 1 of the Championship Series. The White Sox took the lead in the 3rd inning when Tom Paciorek singled in Rudy Law with 2 outs to give Lamar Hoyt a 1-0 edge. The Sox get their 2nd run in their half of the 6th when rookie Ron Kittle hits into this double play, good enough to score Paciorek from 3rd. For the Orioles, the highlights came in the infield. Some fine defensive gems turned in by the crew. Rich Dower here robs Harold Baines. One play later, Cal Ripken Jr. takes a hit away from Vance Law. And Todd Cruz at 3rd to nab Scott Fletcher. In the bottom of the 9th inning, the Orioles made a run at the White Sox, starting off with this double to left center field by Dan Ford. Cal Ripken then followed with a looping single to left to score Tito Landrum, who entered the game to run for 4th. That left it up to Eddie Murray with 2 outs, and the first baseman hit the first pitch back up the middle, and Ripken is forced at second. Lamar Hoyt is the winner, and the White Sox take the first game 2-1.
I think your last outing, you kind of overpowered the Orioles, had about 12 strikeouts or 9 strikeouts, a large number. Today it looked like you were moving the ball around a little more, finessing them.
Well, that's actually what I was trying to do, just move the ball in and out and change speeds and get a nice rhythm going. And I thought I did from about the 4th or 5th inning on, and I felt really good out there.
Of course, tonight it's Boddicker for the Orioles going against Bannister of the White Sox. Let's compare the two starters and look back on their seasons. First of all, Mike Boddicker, the rookie brought up from Rochester, has done just a tremendous job for the Orioles this year. 16-8, a 2.77 ERA. That's good for second best in the American League. 1983 against the White Sox. 2-0 record and an even 2 ERA. A tremendous job. His strength has a very good breaking ball. We all know about that. Very good location on his pitch as well. If he does have a weakness, it might be that he has no overpowering pitch. Does not have a very good fastball.
Floyd Bannister for the White Sox, a $1 million man they obtained from Seattle by the free agency route. 16-10 on the year, 3.35 ERA, but most of the damage he has done has come since the All-Star break. He was 3-9 at the break and then went 9-0 after looking at some films of himself, taking off the pressure from all the money he's made. And Floyd Bannister has been as good, if not better, than Lamar Hoyt in the second half of the season. That's kind of frightening to think, isn't it?
That is frightening. If he's better than Lamar Hoyt, we might be in for a long night. Anyway, we'll be back with more of our pregame show right after these messages. Stadium, John Saunders along with Scott Garceau, Game 2 of the American League Championship Series.
Well, John, of course, the Sox up 1-0 in this series, but on the season, the Orioles have the edge. They won 7 of the 12 games, and there were some wild ones this year, to say the least. Let's take a look at the O's and Sox in '83.
You could never be quite sure what you might see during the Orioles and White Sox games in '83. Each time the two teams met, there was plenty of fireworks and plenty to talk about. When the two champions met for the first time in April, the second game of the series went into the record books, but not because of its beauty. That game on April 14th was filled with mishaps and seemed to go on forever. The White Sox won it 12-11. It lasted 3 hours and 56 minutes, the longest 9-inning game in O's history. When Chicago came to town in mid-May, Richard Dotson had a no-hitter going in the 8th inning until Dan Ford lifted this one into the right field seats. Dotson threw a one-hitter, but a 1-0 win for the Birds and a tip of the hat for Dan Ford. They didn't get together again until August, and on the night of August 5th, the magic was in the air at Memorial Stadium. With 2 out in the 9th, the O's had 4 straight singles to tie the game, and Rich Dower at the plate.
Down the right field line, it is a fair ball. That is hard to believe.
An unbelievable comeback.
Get in there.
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, Len.
Back in Chicago for the season finale, and Len Ciccato was the sarcastic choice for Sports Illustrated Player of the Week when he broke his 0-for-66 drought against the White Sox. The next night, Joe Altobelli added his spice to the rivalry, getting tossed to the showers for his words with the home plate umpire. But all that was mild compared to Sunday's show. Carlton Fisk hits an apparent 2-run homer, but the umpires rule fan interference, and the Orioles go on to win it 2-1. Not before Tony La Russa got himself and third base thrown out of the game.
Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. A woman done left.
And that was the last the two teams saw of each other until this championship series. Again, the Orioles hold the regular season edge, 7-5.
Well, I guess nothing too crazy yesterday. When you size up that game, you just spell it H-O-Y-T. It was strictly Lamar Hoyt.
Right.
Maybe we'll have him throwing the bases around tonight.
Chuck Thompson said to me before, if Hoyt threw again tonight, he could do the same job. That shows how strong he is. We'll be back in just a minute. We're just about ready for the start of the game after this. along with Scott Garceau. We're just about ready for the Orioles and the White Sox to kick it off. Scott, any final thoughts?
Well, we said do or die for the Orioles tonight, and I think that's the case. But when you stop and think about it, even if they lose tonight, what does it mean to win 3 in a row? How many times have they done that during the season? Nobody's ever done it in the playoffs on the road, but it's not out of the question. So maybe it's not do or die, but it sure does mean a lot.
It certainly is a possibility. Bannister coming up against Boddicker. Chuck and Brooks will be along in just a moment with the play-by-play. Thank you very much for watching, and enjoy the game.
Well, a very pleasant good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome now to Game 2 in the 1983 American League Championship Series from Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, the Baltimore Orioles and the Chicago White Sox. It would hard to believe that anybody in our viewing audience does not realize what happened to the Orioles yesterday. They ran into a great pitcher by the name of Lamar Hoyt and were defeated by a score of 2-1. And Brooks Robinson, that really puts Baltimore in the hole.
This is a must-win tonight, Chuck. If you're going to win the playoffs, you have to win tonight. I don't see the Orioles going to Chicago and winning 3 in a row.
Well, while we have a little time, Brooks, I'm sure you talked to people today about the Orioles. What kind of an opinion did the fans give you that you talked to today?
Well, the opinion was that Hoyt was just too much for it, and that was just about it. McGregor did not pitch that bad, but when you shut down the middle of the Oriole lineup of Ripken, Murray, and Lowenstein, if they don't hit, we are not going to win. So that's going to be the main prerequisite tonight. We're going to have to dent that starting pitching for the Chicago White Sox.
Well, I think maybe the Oriole fans who have been with this ball club so well, whether they were winning or losing, and fortunately they did a lot more winning than they did losing, but they kind of suffered when early in the year the Orioles lost 7 in a row, and then they came back with an encore and lost another 7 in a row, and lost all of those players to the disabled list, but yet managed to win their division. And I kind of think the Oriole fans feel that, you know, you're not perfect. You're going to have to lose 1 or 2 ball games every now and then, and yesterday is just yesterday. Let's go get them tonight.
That's exactly the way the players approach it. We've got a ball game today, and they forgot yesterday. And I think the thing that, you know, in 1973 and 74, the Orioles won the first game, although Oakland came back to win the series. Last year, California wins the first 2 games and then loses 3 in a row in Milwaukee. So all they have to do tonight to be in good shape is to win this ball game, and Mike Boddicker has a little pressure on him.
Boddicker needs it, and he's going to be going against Floyd Bannister, and we haven't the time right now to talk about these pitchers, not dwelling on yesterday's ball game. But, Brooks, the Orioles have been kind of somewhat flat since they clinched the pennant. As a matter of fact, they have lost 6 of 8 games. Now, is that kind of natural? It must be awfully hard, I think, as a player to stay up on edge after you know, when you're playing meaningless games.
Well, that's true. The White Sox went through a slightly not as bad as the Orioles did, Chuck. They were flat. They had a no-hitter thrown at them by Mike Warren of Oakland.
Right.
So they went through a little period, too. And the main thing that you're concerned with after you're cinched, and I don't care how you play, is the fact that you don't want anyone to get hurt. You want to stay healthy, and that's what the Orioles were concerned about. They were concerned about letting their pitchers get enough work, letting certain infielders get enough work. So I don't really see any significance to the fact that they have been flat the last week of the season. Yesterday they did not play too well. They were the team that made the mistakes. And when you don't score runs, everything else is magnified. So if we would score 5, 6, 7 runs, nobody's going to think about the errors that we made, or Murray not coming up with the ball, or Murray not getting a hit the last time up. The fact is, when you score runs, that makes everything a little better.
Brooks, you're saying in another way, I think, that you're never quite as good as you look when you're winning, nor are you quite as bad as you look when you're losing. Floyd Bannister is, I don't think you can compare him with Lamar Hoyt. He's an entirely different kind of a pitcher.
Yes, he is. Bannister is a power pitcher. He was second in the league this year to strikeouts to Jack Morris. Last year, he led the American League in strikeouts. But he is another one of those outstanding pitchers that the White Sox have. Over the second half, he was 13-1, and he had the best earned run average of any of those 3 pitchers. Dotson, Hoyt, he had the best in Bannister. And he's a guy who is going to throw fire, fire, fire. Just rear back and throw. He likes to throw breaking balls inside to the right-hand hitters, and he likes to go away to try to strike them out with a fastball.
Brooks, we all know that, you know, they're only human ball players, and they will make mistakes. They're not machines, as Scott McGregor so aptly put it. But yesterday was really a poorly played game insofar as the Orioles are concerned. They were mixed up a few times. There was a balk in the ball game. There was a wild pitch. It was just not a typical Oriole performance. What did any of the players have to say about that?
They just more or less forgot it, I think, Chuck. They realized that they did not play a good ball game. And really the White Sox had chances late in the game to blow it wide open and make it a runaway almost, but they were not able to capitalize on that. The Orioles played well when they had to, but they did make a few errors of omission, and that's something they're going to have to turn around, because when you've got outstanding pitching, you cannot afford to make mistakes.
Well, what you've gotten to the point I was trying to make, that late in the ball game, the White Sox were threatening every inning over the last 4 innings of play, and it was kind of like the Orioles said, wait a minute, we could get ourselves in a lot of trouble, and it appeared that the Orioles suddenly kind of got into their groove and began to play their kind of baseball and just refused to let the White Sox score with their great opportunities over the last 4 innings, and we'll be back with more right after this message. Well, let's give you a rundown on the batting orders for tonight's second game in this all-important championship series of 1983. And you'll not find too many changes for the Chicago White Sox, but you will find quite a few changes for the Orioles. Leading off for the Chicago White Sox will be their center fielder, Rudy Law. Number 2 batter again is Carlton Fisk, catching. Number 3 hitter, the right fielder, Harold Baines. Batting 4, designated hitter, Greg Luzinski. Number 5 hitter at first base, Tom Paciorek. Number 6 hitter in the left fielder, Ron Kittle. Batting 7 at third base is Vance Law. And the number 8 hitter, shortstop, Scott Fletcher. And batting 9 will be the second baseman, Julio Cruz. Now, the Oriole batting order against the hard-throwing left-hander Floyd Bannister will find John Shelby leading off, and he will be in center field. Now, the number 2 batter is going to be Tito Landrum. Now, earlier tonight, manager Altobelli had Dan Ford in that spot, Brooks, but he was unable to go.
Well, I saw Dan this afternoon when he came into the locker room, and he was hobbling, and I asked him if he was going to be able to play. He said, I think so. He was penciled in the lineup, and I guess that they decided to try to have someone who was 100% in the outfield, and they went with Tito Landrum and took Dan Ford out of the lineup.
Well, we'll run through the lineups again. John Shelby in center field. Tito Landrum, as Brooks explained, will bat number 2 and be in right field, replacing Dan Ford. The number 3 hitter, the Orioles shortstop, Cal Ripken. And batting 4, first baseman Eddie Murray. The number 5 batter, left fielder, Gary Renicky. In the number 6 spot, again, the designated hitter, Ken Singleton. Batting 7 at second base, Rich Dower. The number 8 batter and the third baseman is Todd Cruz. And the Orioles' fiery backstopper, catcher Rick Dempsey, completes the batting order. Boddicker on the year has won 16 and lost 8. He made 26 starts through 10 complete ball games, and along the way, he pitched 5 shutouts and had a sparkling earned run of 2.77, which is the best in the American League among pitchers who finished in the American League. Rick Honeycutt went from the Rangers to the Dodgers, or he might have won the ERA title.
Dibzinski. Number 22, Aurelio Rodriguez. Number 25, Mike Squires. Number 29, Greg Walker. Number 30, Salome Barojas. Number 31, Lamar Hoyt. Number 36, Jerry Kuzman. Number 40, Britt Burns. Number 41, Dick Tidrow. Number 45, Kevin Hickey. Number 50, Juan Augusto. Number 53, Dennis Lamp. The coaches, number 6, Charlie Lau. Number 21, Jimmy Leland. Number 35, Ed Brinkman. Number 38, Dave Nelson. Number 46, Lauren Babe. The trainers, Herman Schneider, Brant McFarland. The equipment manager, Willie Thompson. Introducing the starting lineup. Batting first, the center fielder, number 11, Rudy Law. Batting second, the catcher, number 72, Carlton Fisk. Batting third, the right fielder, number 3, Harold Bain. Batting fourth, the designated hitter, number 19, Greg Luzinski. Batting fifth, the first baseman, number 44, Tom Pachorik. Batting sixth, the left fielder, number 42, Ron Kittle. Batting seventh, the third baseman, number 5, Vance Law. Batting eighth, the shortstop, number 1, Scott Fletcher. Batting ninth, the second baseman, number 16, Julio Cruz. And pitching for the White Sox, number 24, Floyd Bannister, 16-10, who is warming up in the right field bullpen with number 15, Coach Art Kushner, number 18, Coach Dave Duncan, and number 12, bullpen catcher Joel Skinner. And now for the Eastern Division champion, Baltimore. First, the non-starter, number 1, Al Bumbry. Number 9, John Stafaro. Number 16, Scott McGregor. Number 12, Len Sakata. Number 15, Dan Ford. Number 17, Joe Nolan. Number 21, Dan Morigello. Number 22, Jim Palmer. Number 23, Tippy Martinez. Number 27, Benny Ayala. Number 28, Jim Dwyer. Number 30, Dennis Martinez. Number 32, Bill Swiggerty. Number 34, Storm Davis. Number 38, John Lowenstein. Number 46, Mike Flanagan. Number 49, Tim Stoddard. Number 53, Sammy Stewart. The coaches, number 40, Jimmy Williams. Number 47, Cal Ripken. Number 54, Ralph Rowe. The trainer, Ralph Salvon. The equipment manager, Jim Tyler. Now the manager of the Orioles, number 26, Joe Altobelli. Introducing the starting lineup for the Orioles. Batting first, the center fielder, number 37, John Shelby. Batting second, the right fielder, number 39, Tito Landrum. Batting third, the shortstop, number 8, Cal Ripken. Batting fourth, the first baseman, number 33, Eddie Murray. Batting fifth, the left fielder, number 35, Gary Renicky. Batting sixth, the designated hitter, number 29, Ken Singleton. Batting seventh, the second baseman, number 25, Rich Dower. Batting eighth, the third baseman, number 10, Todd Cruz. Batting ninth, the catcher, number 24, Rick Dempsey. And pitching for the Orioles, number 52, Mike Boddicker, 16-8, who is warming up in the left field bullpen with number 44, Coach Elrod Hendrick. Number 31, Coach Ray Miller. We now ask you to please rise, and we direct your attention to the pitcher's mound, where internationally acclaimed composer, arranger, and recording artist Chuck Mangione, who hails from Joe Altobelli's hometown of Rochester, New York, will play the national anthem.
One of the greats of our day, Chuck Mangione, with a beautiful rendition of the national anthem, and he gets a heck of an ovation from another capacity crowd. The weather here in our city tonight, just a little cooler than it's been the last few evenings, but a wonderful game, wonderful weather for baseball. However, if any of your friends came to the ballpark tonight, I would hope that they brought at least a windbreaker or a sweater with them. It's that kind of a night. The umpiring assignment tonight at the plate on balls and strikes is Durwood Merrill. At first base, Nick Bremigan. At second base, Jim Evans. At third base, Dave Phillips. Left field line, Mike O'Reilly. And the right field side, yesterday's home plate umpire, Jim McKean. Mike Boddicker, 16-8. Had a heck of a rookie season. He was given an opportunity to start when injuries hit the Oriole pitching staff, way back in May. And he went on to lead all of the major league rookies in victories with 16. And he topped the American League with 5 shutouts, finishing second in the circuit with a 2.77 ERA. Was second on the Orioles staff in wins, complete games 10, strikeouts 120. Mike Boddicker, he had kind of a record, Brooks. It's a little bit strange. Here at Memorial Stadium on the season, Mike Boddicker won 11 and lost 3. The best he could do on the road, 5-5.
I think this park suits him just fine, Chuck. He's very comfortable pitching here. It is a pitcher's park. Left center, right center, the power alleys are a little difficult to reach. Now, if you hit the ball right down either line, you're in business. But most of the balls any hitter is going to hit is going to be left center, right center. Boddicker is just as calm and cool as you'll ever see any pitcher. And I think that in talking to him in the clubhouse before the game, that's the impression I got. He just wants to go out, pitch his game, keep the Orioles close, and hope that they can crack this Chicago pitching staff.
Well, for a fellow who started the year in Rochester, and it was actually, he might not have started in Rochester had it not been for a bad break in spring training, and he came up with a severe ankle injury, and the Orioles, he just couldn't get into the normal work routine and pattern of spring training, and he lost his chance then to earn a spot on the ball club. So he started the year in Rochester. He was 3 wins and a loss with a 1.90 earned run in 4 starts when he was recalled to replace disabled Jim Palmer. On May the 3rd, he worked once in relief before getting a spot start in the second game of a doubleheader with the White Sox on May the 17th, and all the kid did was hurl a 5-hit shutout versus the Chicago White Sox in the second game of the doubleheader for his first major league complete game and shutout, and he became a regular member of the rotation as Mike Flanagan had sustained ligament damage in his left knee in the opening game of that doubleheader.
Now, let me in the AAA league 3 years ago, when he's been up and down, the Orioles actually thought he might be 1 pitch short as far as being a big league pitcher. They asked him to go back to Rochester this year, try to come up with something that would give him a little different pitch. He went down, he worked on a fork ball, which he calls a fosh ball, and it was a change of pace for him, and that's one of the reasons he's here in the big leagues. I actually think they make too much out of this because I actually feel, in talking to other players who saw him pitch several years ago, that he could have pitched here in the big leagues, but it was just a fact of life. The Orioles had a lot of good pitchers.
Which is, when you say Baltimore Orioles, you automatically say pitching. As long as I can remember, the Orioles have had at least as good a pitching staff as anybody else in the league, and many years, of course, they had better staffs. And Boddicker is right out of that mold, and though he's not eligible to help the Orioles in the playoffs, another young right-hander came up from Rochester and really helped the Orioles, and that was Alan Ramirez. And he's a youngster that we might hear from in the future, not to mention what the left-handed guy Dan Maragiello did, and fellows like John Stefaro also made contributions to the Orioles' late season surge that got them where they are tonight, ready to battle the White Sox in the second game of the 1983 American League Championship Series. Boddicker throws quite a few different pitches, does he not?
He has command of 4 pitches. You'll see him throw the overhand curveball, the fastball, has a changeup, and he can throw them anytime, any situation. And I think that's one of the reasons he's been successful. When he's 3-1, 2-0, the hitter's pitch, he doesn't have to come right down the middle with the fastball. He can throw another pitch and get it over. But he is a battler. He is calm and cool and collected, as we mentioned before, Chuck, on the mound. And in talking to him, I was very surprised just how calm he was. But this is a big game for him, believe me.
Probably the biggest in his career to date. If there's one negative, and it's a very narrow sort of a negative, and it has absolutely nothing to do with his ability to pitch, but he does have a kind of a problem that's not absolutely unique, but it is to the Oriole pitching staff this year. He does develop blisters on his pitching hand, and it's bothered him 3 or 4 times this year. We're all ready to go. It'll be Rudy Law to lead off for the Chicago White Sox. Rudy went 3 for 5 yesterday. He was really concerned about the numbers he read. 0-56 against Baltimore in the regular season. And he said, hey, I'm going to turn that around right now. And he did.
Well, he sure did. 2 for 32. And that was one of the reasons that the Orioles were successful against the White Sox. They kept this young player off the bases. Here's a good play by Dower. If he can throw him out, he got him.
Rich Dower, who once handled 86 consecutive games without an error in 1978, doesn't miss many. With Rudy Law running, he really had to recover quickly to get him, and he did.
There's no question that the Orioles, a sound fundamentally team throughout, well, Earl Weaver was here at Altobelli again this year, but they've got to be feeling a little bit of pressure. All players do not admit it because it is not macho, but they have to have this game tonight before they go into Chicago's Comiskey Park.
Shows the bunt and takes a strike.
Punch Fisk will drop down bunt successfully 10-12 times this season. Joe Altobelli, some of the others moving a defense around.
Off-speed pitch, swung on and missed.
Boddicker throws actually 3 different kinds of curveball. That was the 3/4 curveball that he took something off. He has a hard one from the same area, and on occasion, he will drop down somewhat sidearm and throw the curve. There's the defensive alignment for Fisk.
0-2 pitch. Got him on 3 straight.
It's interesting that he gets his first strikeout on the curveball. Elrod Hendricks is a former Orioles catcher, and he catches him in the bullpen to warm him up. I said, how did he get to 12 strikeouts? He said he had the curveball that he took out of that bullpen, and I said if he takes it out to that mound and keeps it, he's going to have a big strikeout total. He did that day. Elrod Hendricks, right in the middle of your picture.
Harold Baines wore the collar yesterday, 0 for 4. Takes a ball. Mike Boddicker, as we look at Baines and what he did this year against the Orioles, against the league, he was .280, 20 homers, 99 runs driven home. Boddicker is 26 years old, 5'11", 172, an Iowa native. His 5 shutouts led the league, one more than Dave Stieb of Toronto and Britt Burns of the White Sox.
He has not yet thrown the forkball. Tony La Russa. Harold Baines hitting into the 3 spot. Pulling the ball much more up until 2 strikes. Then he'll go to the opposite way, especially against left-handers. With that running fastball that Boddicker throws running away from the left-hander, you get in the hole, and the best thing for a left-hander to do is go the other way.
2-2 now to Baines, who is from St. Michael's, Maryland, so he's playing in front of his friends and neighbors. He's the 2nd strikeout victim for Boddicker here in the 1st, who sets them down 1-2-3. Coming back to Baltimore.
Obviously heard about what everybody said was a poor start, and 3-9 is, but he has been outstanding. 13-1 since about the All-Star game. He got the big money. He is 2nd in the league this year in strikeouts. Possibly his success as we look at the strikeout to innings pitch ratio. Dave Duncan, the pitching coach, tried to tighten his curveball up and got him to throw the ball to the center of the plate and let his arm and his stuff take care of the rest. He was a nibbler at one time, but pitching in Seattle all those years will make you a nibbler.
First one to Shelby. Swing and a miss. Bannister complained early in the year, remember he was used to pitching in the Kingdome, about cold weather in many American League cities, said he couldn't break a sweat. Another factor, he might have been under some self-imposed pressure with a big contract. 2 quick strikes, and Tony La Russa was quoted as saying, well, Floyd just finally stopped trying to be Superman. The results took care of themselves. 13-1 since the All-Star break.
Got a chance on that last pitch to show the liveliness of Bannister. He's in the low 90s.
Just missed. 1-2.
Does not throw a slider. Somewhat unusual in modern day baseball. Some throw a combination slider curve. They call it a slurve. Some slider or curve. He is throwing hard. He is throwing hard. His fastball will run away sometimes from the right-hander, as that one did. He will hold it slightly off center and cut it, and it will run in on the fists. A pretty good straight change to keep you honest, and an excellent curveball. He's throwing very hard thus far. He got him. Wow. He is humming.
Well, Brooks Shelby took a few pitches, which is a comment I think you made earlier in our season, one of the telecasts, that our leadoff men have got to take a few more pitches.
That's right. Shelby is very aggressive. I was going to make the comment, it won't take as long to see what Shelby's going to do when he came up, because he went up there and started swinging the bat. And there's a lot of pros and cons, but leadoff men have to get on base. That's what their job is. And this is Tito Landrum playing for the injured Dan Ford. Tito had experience last year with the St. Louis Cardinals in the World Series. Altobelli likes this young player. I say young, he's 28, 29 years old.
28, yep.
Yep.
28 years old.
He's been around, but he's got some tools, and he'll can do a good job.
Got a piece of it, and he also got a piece of the mask, as you see the readjustment made by Carlton Fisk.
Landrum scored the Orioles' only run. He came in the 9th inning yesterday. He pinch ran for Dan Ford after Ford's double and came home on a Ripken single. 3-1.
You'll probably not see Pudge Fisk move around quite as much, Bannister and then Dodson, as he does with Hoyt.
Swinging on the 3-1 and popping it up. Fisk off with the mask. And it's going to be on the screen.
Before the All-Star break, Bannister had such a struggle, as Bob told you, that he really went home and wrestled. He watched a lot of films of himself, try and get the mechanics back. He watched films hours on end for 3 days. He took an old film of the shutout he pitched against Boston, the Red Sox, and studied it, got the help of Fisk and, of course, Dave Duncan. I'm not so sure that the pressure affected him as much as many people felt. I think he may have pushed a little bit too hard, tried to overthrow at times, throw 95 instead of 93.
Struck him out. So Boddicker fan 2 in the top half of the first, and Bannister has whiffed the first 2 he's faced in the bottom half.
It's interesting the difference on the pitches that they've struck the 4 out on. Boddicker, 2 really wicked curveballs. Bannister, 2 fastballs that are very, very live.
Cal Ripken Jr. He led the American League in runs scored, hits with 211, doubles with 47. He set an Oriole record in that department, breaking Brooks Robinson's old mark, and he was just 1 behind Jim Rice for the total base leadership. Had 27 homers, 102 RBIs, batted .318, played every inning of every game at shortstop, and led the American League in total chances accepted and assists at that position. So you can see why he's a very, very legitimate MVP candidate.
I'd vote for him because of the position he's playing. Most valuable player in any team is usually the catcher. He works the hardest. I think the shortstop spot may be second as far as the best athlete you've got to have. He's done it well. Probably the 3 top vote getters in that department are playing tonight. Ripken and Murray of the Orioles, and Fisk, the White Sox catcher. This ball is hit softly, but Law's got to come way in, and he won't get there. Drops in for a 2-out single. Law broke back about 2 steps. Had he not, he may have had to make a good shoestring catch, but he would have had a shot. Off the end of the bat, it fooled him. Looked like a fastball that he ran away from him and hit on the end of the bat. And now Eddie Murray carrying a little bit of a burden. He is one of the game's great players, but in postseason play, he's not fared well. In 1979 in the World Series, he was 0 for his last 21 and 4 for 26 composite. Yesterday, he had an error, was involved in a couple of other misplays which weren't charged, and at the plate, he went 0 for 4. I think that's pretty strong. Too strong of an indictment for a guy who has not played that many. He had over 400 in the League Championship Series. People have tended to forget that. So on the strength of 1 World Series, this man can hit, and he will before this thing's over, unless they pitch around him, and he's the guy they've chosen that they do not want to pitch to. Switch hitter, of course, had a personal high 33 home runs this year. Probably better from the right side. Powers the ball to right and left center field. Want to talk about consistency and power? His last 3 complete seasons, discounting the 1981 strike year, 32, 32, and then this year 33 home runs. RBIs,
116, 110. This year, 111. 2-0 pitch. 2-1.
He's not only throwing hard, his ball is moving, so the hitters are a little bit late on it. And if they do catch up to it, they're still going to have to contend with the movement on the ball.
Two and two.
You know, Bob, I think Bannister, not only that he's throwing hard, but his delivery fools some hitters also, right-handed hitters. He throws a little bit across his body, not to the degree that Scotty McGregor did, but he kind of pauses at the top of his delivery and then comes at you very quickly.
Fisk is able to handle it. The count goes full, so Ripken will be running.
And Pacharik will give the sign to Bannister and will play behind. He'll try any trick pickoff moves that I don't know about. I'm not going to be there.
Bannister went to a full count on both Shelby and Landrum before fanning each.
Struck outside at the end of 1 inning of play tonight in Game 2. The Orioles nothing, the White Sox nothing. .27 pitches thrown by Floyd Bannister, Brooks, in that first inning. And here we go. Top of the second to Greg Luzinski.
A breaking ball for strike one to Luzinski. The Bull was 1 for 3 yesterday, had a bloop double. Hit .250 during the regular year with 3 home runs against the Orioles.
Interesting to see the difference in catching styles. You see Fisk move around behind the plate a lot. Yesterday, Dempsey didn't shift that far in and out. Some pitchers don't like it. They like to throw for left shoulder, right shoulder, left knee guard, right knee guard. Tom Seaver's one like that.
Did he go? They check. He did. 1 and 2.
Nick Brevigan down at first base. What a great curveball he's had so far tonight. Sometimes a pitcher like Boddicker with a great curveball in the off-speed pitch, it takes them a while because it's such a field pitch to get their feet on the ground and get the proper speed and tempo. He came out throwing it for strikes and hard.
Count holds as Luzinski fouls one off. The Bull had 32 home runs this year, which is a DH record, bettering by 1. The previous mark held by Andre Thornton, Rico Carty, and Jim Rice.
There's the sidearm curve. First time he's dropped down. He did it to Luzinski, but he got away with it because he hung it inside. Almost in the wheelhouse of Luzinski. A little bit lower, it would have been the one he wanted.
Again, the 1-2. Big off-speed pitch, 2 and 2.
Isn't it marvelous to have an organization like the Orioles where you can have all the injuries and off people in the starting rotation off? You can reach down to Rochester as they did 4 times this year. Emergency pitchers. Amazing. This guy got stuck for 4 years in Rochester because they're so pitching rich.
In an era of turmoil in baseball, they have been a very stable organization. 15 players. He fans Luzinski. So each pitcher has struck out 3. 15 players who were with the Orioles in 1979 when they last went to the World Series are with this 1983 Oriole team, an organization that has topped 90 wins 16 times in the last 20 seasons, and one of those was a strike year, so it's really 16 out of 19 opportunities. 7 division titles since the playoff system began in 1969. In contrast, for the White Sox, it's a return to excellence after a long drought. Their last pennant, 1959. Pacharik is hit by a pitch.
He has now overthrown 2 curveballs. That sidearm one to Luzinski that hung inside. This one he tried to throw a little bit harder to Pacharik, and it got him.
Batting 6, the left fielder, number 42, Ryan Kittle.
So Pacharik is the first White Sox base runner, and Eddie Murray wants to go over and talk with Boddicker.
Well, a couple of conferences. Murray possibly to get their pickoff sign straight. He doesn't want to leave first base and protect the hole. And there's Davey Nelson. The stopwatch to time the release. Started by Steve Boros up in Montreal with Timmy Raines, now over in Oakland. And the release, and then he'll also time the delivery of the throw of Dempsey down to second base. Sometimes that is used for one reason, an intimidation factor to the pitchers. Hope the pitchers get a little rattled, seeing you've got a stopwatch on them.
Kittle did well against the Orioles in the regular season, but not yesterday. Fanning twice and grounding into a double play. 1-1. He struck out 150 times this year. That's the negative side. The plus side, tasteful attire. The plus side, 35 homers, 100 RBIs, third in home runs in the American League behind Rice and Armas. Rice had 39 to lead. His teammate Tony Armas with the Red Sox, 36.
I think Don Sutton, our resident pitching expert, will tell you that those breaking ball pitchers usually want a little higher seams. A little better rotation, a little better grip, and those seams bite the resistance a little bit more. Get a little more on it, and Boddicker didn't like it.
2-1 pitch. Low, 3-1. He laid off and he draws a walk. So a hit batter and a base on balls put 2 on with 1 out.
Well, we've talked about how critical this ball game is for the Orioles. In the back of their minds, they know this, being 1 down, that they have won just 5 ball games, the Orioles, and lost 16 in the last 4 years. In fact, ironically, as we look at Altobelli and Cal Ripken, Earl Weaver, who'll be in the Hall of Fame someday for his managerial skills, lost the last 10 ball games he managed in Comiskey Park. 2 consecutive seasons, Baltimore did not win in Comiskey. 81 and 82.
This year they split 6 with the White Sox there. Strike 1 to Vance Law, the son of the Pirates' former Cy Young Award winner Vernon Law. He was 0 for 3 yesterday, but he was robbed of a hit on a leaping catch by Ripken at shortstop. Breaking ball for strike 2. And 2. The Orioles don't think that Law can pull Boddicker. Renicky is way off the line and left. Bumbry shades him into right center, rather Shelby into right center and center field.
Bob, with that breaking ball he's been throwing, the thing the right-handers are going to start trying to do is wait a little longer, keep the hips closed, and start punching it the opposite way, not trying to pull it. That's when Rick Dempsey's going to have to sense what the hitters are thinking or watching their stance, and then start busting that fastball, which sinks at times in on their fists. It becomes that guessing game. More than guessing, more scientific than that.
2-2. Here's the play that Ripken made yesterday on Vance Law. A line drive that looked like it was bound for center field, but Ripken, who's 6'4", uses every bit of it to take the hit away. Now the count goes full to Vance Law.
Well, a decision is going to have to be made right now by Tony La Russa. Will he start him? I think he might. I think he'll have confidence right now. They usually play aggressively. Vance Law can get his bat on the ball. If he doesn't, you know what happens. Could be a strikeout and a throw out. Let's see what he decides.
Boddicker has already fanned 3. They're going. He strikes him out. Here's the throw. Double play.
What a way to end the inning. At the end of an inning and a half, Chicago nothing, Baltimore nothing. Gary Renicky. He sat it out yesterday, but Rhino comes on against Floyd Bannister.
Renicky, 28 years old. His brother Ron used to be with the Dodgers, now with Seattle.
This is the bat I thought we'd see in the 8th or 9th inning yesterday. You've got 19 home runs. I thought he'd get a crack at it.
As we mentioned yesterday, you put that left field platoon together and consider it one player, which it really is, Lowenstein, Renicky, and very occasionally Ayala. You get way over 100 RBIs, better than 30 home runs. This ball is hit hard down the line. It is in there for extra bases. Fielding it is Kittle as Renicky goes for 2. The throw is high, and he's in there.
He may have gotten a breaking ball down and in. They were playing him the pull in the infield, bunching, or a cut fastball. alertly Tom Paciorek, who was trailing the play. If the two middle infielders had gone out for a relay, Paciorek would have trailed the play and tried to sneak behind the runner for a possible pickoff and a snap throw. By trailing the play, he alertly prevented an extra base.
Switch hitter Ken Singleton now. Orioles looking for their first lead of the series. Ball one. Hits this one hard. It bounces off Law's chest. He recovers, throws high and over the head of Paciorek. Fisk backed it up. Renicky is going to stop at third.
I think that ball went in the dugout. He's going to be awarded home plate, and the runner of Singleton will go to second. That ball popped out, but I believe it was in the dugout.
Just for a second, it must have been. Fisk pounced on it, but it went in for a second. So Renicky scores. Singleton does not run well, Tony, so even after mishandling the ball, Law had ample time to get him at first, but he threw it over Paciorek's head.
He did, especially with Singleton running from the right side, getting a slow jump out of the box. He tried to get down on it like Todd Cruz did yesterday and just smothered in front of him. You see it go into the camera well or edge of the dugout. Renicky with the ball hit to the left side and nobody out, holding his ground.
Batting seventh.
That ball was crushed off the bat of Singleton. It just ate Vance Law up.
Rich Dower.
An option. I don't think they'll put a straight bunt on, but he wants to push the ball to the right side, take a shot, and 2 shots to right field, advance the runner, get him to third, less than 2 outs.
He pops it up. Let's see if Fisk has a play. He does not. You'll notice that in the area that Fisk is just walking away from, there are some extra seats. They put in a box about 3 rows deep. There it is. And yesterday, that was a factor in the game as Rick Dempsey, on an apparent wild pitch by McGregor, had the ball carom off that box and right back to him. He made a spectacular whirling throw to McGregor, and they got Vance Law at the plate. As good a play as it was, it would not have been possible under normal conditions.
One of the best handlers of the bat in the game right here, Rich Dower, doesn't strike out, much goes the opposite way. Let's see now if Bannister bores that curveball down and tries to force him to pull it.
1-1. Popped up again. Fisk once more. This one looks playable. He's got it.
Interesting watching that series of pitches. Scott Fletcher, the shortstop, seeing how he moves as Pudge Fisk gives the signals. He may have a tendency to move a little bit too soon. That last time, fastball call, he took 2 quick steps before the ball was released to his left, played up the middle. On a breaking ball, he'll start taking a couple steps to his right to protect the hole. If you're a hitter and you see it before the pitcher delivers the ball, you know what's coming.
Todd Cruz was 199 overall this year when first Leo Hernandez didn't pan out and he was sent back to Rochester, and Aurelio Rodriguez was released. They got Cruz from Seattle. He's become more or less their regular third baseman. Slice foul.
They've had a chance in the bottom of your screen to see Fletcher, who shuffled 2 short steps to his left. There was a fastball. It's awfully hard for a hitter to pick that up. If you do it too soon, you can cause some problems.
Unless Cruz can solidify his hold on third base, there's talk of Gary Renicky being moved there next year, or possibly a deal with Texas for Buddy Bell. Vance Law takes it, looks Singleton back, and retires Cruz.
Batting ninth, the catcher, number 24, Rick.
As Dempsey comes up, take a look at a play that should have been a double play, but it was broken up in the most painful fashion by Dempsey. Watch him go in. Fletcher takes the throw, and right on the noggin. It got him off the helmet, but also got his wrist and part of his hand as he threw it up, trying to protect himself. He stayed in the game, and despite swollen fingers on his right hand, he's back in the lineup tonight.
Dempsey, a good fastball hitter, has always liked the ball in the middle of the plate end. Last spring. He started out switch hitting. Gave up on the experience in about early in April, middle of April. Just couldn't hack it from the left side. Broken back.
Swings on the first one and pops it up. Julio Cruz is calling, and he's got it. But the Orioles push across an unearned run on a double by Renicky and a throwing error on Singleton's ball from third baseman Vance Law. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Involved in a controversial play yesterday, forced out on an attempted sacrifice. He was the runner at second, forced out at third on the call by Jim Evans, which was ironic because during the regular season it was Evans who overruled another umpire and took an apparent home run away from the White Sox. Carlton Fisk ruled it a double in a game against the Orioles, and that cost the White Sox a win. He tries to bunt, and Dempsey has it.
Todd Cruz was playing up and even with the bag at third base. In fact, they had Cruz up most of yesterday's ball game, and he made some brilliant plays down there, but the time he stayed close off Pachorik with 2 outs in first and second, he got handcuffed. It's a different style of third base play than the great Hall of Famer Brooks Robinson played. Robinson played deep and dared you to bunt, and he would get you. Clete Boyer, on the other hand, played shallow like Cruz and dared you to hit it by him.
Julio Cruz, no relation to Todd Cruz, although at one time they were the middle infield combination of the Seattle Mariners. A switch hitter who is better from the right side. He's just a .240 hitter left-handed.
That may have been the first Fosh, as they call it. Herm Schneider, the trainer who's done an excellent job behind Tony La Russa.
Strikes him out on 3 pitches, and for Boddicker, it's strikeout number 5, and we're just in the 3rd inning. Bannister struck out the side for Chicago in the first, but did not record a strikeout in the second.
One of the reasons, another one of the reasons why Boddicker stayed at Rochester for 4 years going to the start of this year was he couldn't come up with that breaking pitch. They tried to teach him a lot of different ways, and until he went to that modified forkball, he had trouble. And his fastball wasn't good enough. He had the good curve all along. So he had to add that 3rd or 4th pitch. If he throws that forkball, it will look like a screwball. That may have been it. I recall last year during the World Series when we brought the great relief pitcher Mike Marshall in to describe Bruce Suter's split-fingered fastball, and he called it a one-fingered screwball and had films to prove it. And that's exactly the way Boddicker's ball reacts. It rolls off the side of the middle finger to impart that spin.
3-0 to Law, who was second in the American League in steals with 77. Ricky Henderson had 108. 3-1.
Boddicker's delivery. So when he comes over the top like that with that hard curveball, that was a fastball.
And a base hit for Rudy Law. So Law, who came into this series 2 for 36 for the season against Baltimore, goes 3 for 4 yesterday and 1 for 2 so far tonight.
Now we've got to watch Rudy Law, who's being advised by Davey Nelson of the moves of Boddicker. Boddicker is fairly quick to first base, but at times his delivery, to get his delivery together, he's got to turn those hips, and he can't be slow to home plate. Davey Nelson knows it. He's studied the films. See if Fisk takes a pitch or so to give Rudy Law a chance.
Tony La Russa says this guy is the White Sox MVP for this year. There's another fellow who'll get votes, Murray, and as we mentioned, Ripken. Jim Rice with the Red Sox, MVP stats, but not a contending team. Law was caught stealing 12 times this year. He was picked off 7 times.
Let's see also now if Rick Dempsey, the thought in his mind that Rudy Law might be stealing, if he goes away from the breaking ball and gives Pudge Fisk, a good fastball hitter, a fastball. Every time Boddicker throws over, it's getting Rudy Law and Davey Nelson a little bit more to look at.
He's going. The throw from Dempsey. He stole it. Now, yesterday, during the introductions, Dempsey was openly taunting the 2 stolen base threats, Julio Cruz and Rudy Law, saying, "You're not going to steal on me." They didn't yesterday, but Law does here.
Rick Dempsey did it also in the player introduction as we watched Law again. He had an excellent jump and that straight-in hard slide, the pop-up slide. Rick Dempsey did it to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Also to Moreno, and Chuck Tanner almost went across the line and pinched his head off, or threatened to, before the first game even started.
But the Pirates didn't steal any bases in that series of Dempsey and the Orioles, but they did win the series, coming from behind to do it.
The one thing Dempsey will do is he will concentrate more on the hitter than the base stealer. With 2 outs, he knows that the most important man is still the man with the bat.
This ball is popped up. Murray going back in foul territory, runs out of room.
Wouldn't push that out of play, giving Fisk another chance.
In the event of a base hit, the outfield arms, Renicky pretty good in left. Shelby outstanding in center field. Tito Landrum not too bad in right.
Don Sutton will remember a throw that Shelby made last year against his Milwaukee Brewers team. The second last weekend of the series, a game that Milwaukee could have won, and looked like a sacrifice fly off the bat of Cecil Cooper, and Shelby threw a bullet to home plate to get Scooby.
And this one is popped up and looks playable. Murray backpedaling. In foul ground, he has it. No runs, a hit, a stolen base by Rudy Law, but he's left stranded at second. And at the end of 2.5, it's 1-0 Baltimore. For a division winner, the Reds in 1975 won by that same 20 lengths. For Baltimore, what looked like a very tight race in the American League East, looked like it was going to be a 5-team affair right to the last week. They broke it open with a red-hot late August and September, won by 6 over Detroit.
One thing about Floyd Bannister, we've talked about that cut fastball, the one that runs away. Pudge Fisk was saying, as we look at what he did strikeouts, one year he led the league in strikeouts up in Seattle, but his fastball down low moves so well also. Many times power pitchers, their fastballs are lively up, they'll take off, and they get them down, they lose a little velocity, and it straightens out. His has good action down low also, below the belt.
Quickly ahead of Shelby 0-2. And he stays alive. Shelby fanned his first time. 2-2 pitches hit well to left field. Back goes Kittle. And it doesn't quite make the warning track as he takes it.
Did the crosswind kill it, you think, Bob? Got it up pretty high. The wind blowing from the left field foul pole to right may have knocked off 8-10 feet off it because it was so high. There's that wind. Center field flag will show it to you. I think that ball might have been out of here on some days. No wind or just the wind drifting it that way.
Sure looked like it would carry an awful lot further than it ultimately did. Here's Landrum, who struck out in the first. Foul ball, strike 1.
Now let's see if Fisk realize they may be catching up to Bannister's fastball and starts mixing in some straight changes. Try to upset their speed and damage their timing.
The 0-1 is hit into right field, but Baines is going to get there. 2 down.
Probably the man most taken for granted in the American League. Remember those great Oakland A's teams when they used to talk about the unsung heroes, underrated players, and they always named Joe Rudy. Baines has driven 100 runs 2 years in a row, goes in that right field corner better than anybody, throws from there. And a nice play, but he made it look easy.
Cal Ripken Jr., who was hanging around the minor league ballparks with his dad, who managed in the Orioles system in the minors for so long. There he is, the third base coach now. Young Cal hanging around those minor league ballparks since he was 7, 8 years old. And he said at one time, takes a strike, his sole ambition was to be a minor league player because those minor leaguers were his heroes.
They thought Cal Ripken Sr. might get the managerial job this year, or Ray Miller, the pitching coach, but they went to a man, Joe Altobelli, out of their organization temporarily, brought him in.
Popped up. Cruz wants it. And the Orioles go 1-2-3 in the third. At the end of 3 in Baltimore, on an unearned run, the Orioles lead the White Sox 1-0. Harold Baines to start it. Ball 1 to him. Struck out in the first. Still looking for his first hit of the series. He was 0 for 4 yesterday.
So the man at the ballpark tonight who discovered Harold Baines, Bob Bowinski, and told Bill Veeck about it. In fact, Bill Veeck got tickets for Bob Bowinski tonight. Harold Baines just fouled that off his right foot.
They
Breaking
spotted
the ball
Baines
down and in. Yep.
when he was just a little leaguer. There's Bill Veeck on the right with the glasses. Veeck remembered him some years later, took him ahead of players like Paul Molitor and Terry Kennedy in the 1977 draft. 1-2. We told you he's a Maryland native. His first big league home run came in this ballpark off a pretty good right-hander named Jim Palmer. But he strikes out for the second time tonight, and number 6 for Boddicker.
That was the Fosh, F-O-S-H, the forkball. Well, we asked Greg Lazinski about batting against Mike Boddicker. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I think Mike Boddicker, had a fine rookie year. It's a situation where he spots his fastball and throws a couple different type breaking balls. And again, the key there is to make people throw strikes.
Tap foul, the Bull, the DH as always tonight. But if they make the World Series, he's going to play first base. No DH in the World Series this year.
I'm not certain that Tony La Russa has made that decision at this point. He still wants to, he's had to work out a little bit at it, but I don't think he's worried about that until they win this thing, if they will.
0-1 pitch, 1-1.
Got a kid sitting on the bench named Greg Walker with a good bat who can play first base. Squires for defense, and Pachorik.
Got the corner, 1-2.
If the White Sox get in, and they've got 2 games to go yet, the decision might be made as to whether or not the Dodgers and Phillies get in. The artificial surface, they may feel Lazinski can't handle it because of the speed of it.
Did he go? No.
Nick Bremigan says no this time. Dempsey, irate, walking out halfway between home plate and the pitcher's rubber. He wanted that pitch. Wow. Dempsey asked for the appeal.
They called one on him in the second, and comparing the replays, if anything, he might have gone further this time. But the Bull stays alive, and here's the 2-2. Lofted into center field, right center. Tito Landrum will take it.
Well, you're going back Pal tomorrow to Comiskey Park. That beanie. There'll be a few people there.
And will they be psyched?
They had a great rally before the White Sox came in. Off day before game number 1, and they couldn't estimate. Some said 50,000 people, some said 100,000. Washington involved.
Strike 1 to Pachorik, who was hit by a pitch his first time.
That's the protection the hitters use at times. Protect that. Pachorik didn't like it. Hitters and catchers were somewhat mild in yesterday's game 1. We didn't see too much bickering on balls and strikes. Each game goes along, the pressure builds a little bit more, and they get a little more tested.
The 0-2, he got him.
What a great sidearm turn. He is something.
The ovation is for Boddicker, who through 4 innings has fanned 7. And it's 1-0 O's.
Well, Mike Boddicker now has run up a total of 7 strikeouts. 3 times this year he has had 8 in a ball game. Once against this ball club he had 8. But his career high and the seasonal high was 12 strikeouts against the Tigers in the first game of a doubleheader. Here is the strikeout pitch to Pachorik, and look at the move on the ball.
This is a little breaking ball, side arm, and you can see it. That's a great picture. Look at the spin on that ball.
Look at the break on the ball.
I know it. All right.
Did a study of that. They sent some scientists who did not believe the ball curved, and they used Ray Miller and Scotty McGregor. We may show you some pictures later under controlled conditions. That proves it breaks.
Murray leads off against Bannister in the last of the 4th and takes a strike on the fastball.
Here are some of the pictures of that breaking ball. There was a tunnel that was set up for Ray Miller and Scotty McGregor. They hung ping pong balls from the ceiling, and they saw the ball break. They found that a ball breaks continuously out of the hand. It was another breaking ball.
Which only proves scientifically what hitters have known all along.
Yeah. They also said a fastball cannot rise. It is impossible. But there's ought to see Nolan Ryan throw a fastball at 100 miles an hour.
Boddicker with the warm-up jacket. The 1-1, 2-1. Two balls and 2 strikes to Murray. And Murray goes down again. Not so much a discussion as a stare down with Durwood Merrill before Murray silently departs.
It was a fastball that just exploded at the end and ran away from Murray. Murray still having words. Murray's been kicked out of 4 ball games. He's so very quiet and seemingly unassuming, but he can be a very volatile person.
Renicky ignited the scoring inning with a double. Came across later on a throwing error by Vance Law.
I'll tell you, if they give either of these 2 pitchers the pitch that Durwood Merrill just gave to Bannister, it's going to be another pitcher's day.
2-0 the count to Renicky. Strike 1 call.
Oriole hitters yesterday off Lamar Hoyt. Oh, middle innings on. So we look at the defense, set up the pull for Gary Renicky in the infield. Not as much in center field. Little gap in right center.
3 balls and 1 strike. Kittle has moved much closer to the line. He's still considerably off it, but they had him played toward the gap in left center his first time up, and Renicky pulled the ball right down the line for a double. So Kittle has moved closer to the left field foul line. 3-1 pitch. Walked it.
Bannister likes to pitch fast. White likes to pitch quickly. Dotson does. Britt Burns is quite slow. He'll start game number 4. Early in the season, that was part of the controversy between Fisk, Duncan, the catcher, pitching coach, and LaRussa. They wanted to speed up his pace as far as calling a ball game, and he has. There's one stretch there early where Mark Hill, 9 games or 8 games, caught Bannister, and it was really irritating to Pudge Fisk. That's when the explosion took place between he and Tony LaRussa. Oriole team does not steal many bases. Shelby leads the ball club. He's in the game today.
Two balls and a strike to Singleton. Annually, he's among the American League leaders in on-base percentage. It's a lot of walks, 99 this year.
Interesting to see with a slugger like Singleton up 2-1 count off Bannister if they don't start a runner. Wouldn't surprise me. Try instead of a double play.
Not going. Hit hard. Fair ball, says Dave Phillips, and down the line. Renicky stumbles a little bit, but it bounces away from Kittle. He's got a green light. The throw coming home. Safe. Double for Singleton. It's 2-0 Baltimore.
Was a pitch in the same location that Renicky hit earlier in the second inning for a double. Caroms off, a little jutting out spot there. And Cal Ripken watched very closely as Renicky stumbled around second. He waved him out, and the ball took a funny hop off the grass into foul territory. It might have been a lot closer on well, he'd have been out on artificial surface, I think. We're not playing on that. Ball doesn't bounce true on this stuff.
Now Dower swings on the first one and pops it up. Fletcher calls. That's the second out as Singleton goes back to second base.
Look at Pudge Fisk. At one time, in fact, he got injured very, very severely up in Boston several times by putting that foot down blocking the plate. Then he went, on the advice of Johnny Bench, to catching the ball with one hand and sweep tagging. Got to be big and strong with that hand to do what Fisk just tried to do, but he missed.
Todd Cruz, who grounded to third his first time up. the fists. Law's coming in, and Rudy Law will put it away. But not before the Orioles push another run across in the fourth on the walk to Renicky and the run-producing double by Singleton, and we'll be right back.
Here comes the top of the fifth inning. Mike Boddicker will be facing Ron Kittle, Vance Law, Scott Fletcher in that order. The Orioles leading by a score of 2-0. Kittle drew a base on balls against Boddicker in the second inning, and now looks at the talented young Oriole right-hander for the second time.
This is the shot. Rich Dotson, who is the starter for the White Sox against Flanagan in Chicago tomorrow night, went home on a 5:45 plane to get some rest. The rest of the White Sox leaving on a charter after the ball game. He said, show me a lot of center field shots. It's my best scouting report. I'll be watching. So there's one for you, Rich.
And the first one to Kittle is tap foul. Tomorrow night, Dotson 22-7 against Mike Flanagan, who was 12-4. Relatively low number of decisions for Flanagan because he spent an awfully long time on the disabled list. And a youngster like this one, Boddicker, along with Ramirez and Swaggerty, whom we mentioned earlier, they took up the slack. Off-speed pitch, swung on and missed. 0-2 to Kittle.
Each manager alternating starters with no off day in the American League. Right, left, right, left. Give the hitters a little something different to look at from game to game. It seems like a little thing, but if you throw 4 right-handed power pitchers in a row, like they do up in Montreal at times, the hitter gets used to seeing it. Makes it a little bit easier.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Kittle was the Sporting News Minor League Player of the Year last year at Edmonton. He hit .345 with 50 homers and 144 RBIs. Foul ball, still 2-2.
About the instincts of Dempsey. He wanted to slap at it as fast as he can, and he did it with his bare hand. There's Flanagan on the left. Joe Nolan in the middle. Flanagan, who started off 6-0 this year, and then on a fielding play tore up his knee. He has a very, very big brace. Watch Rick Dempsey. He's going to jump out and say, I'm going to try and keep her fair. Fairwood Merrill says too late.
Hit hard, and there's a base hit for Kittle by the diving Cruz, so he leads off the 5th inning with a single.
Kittle says he's more of a breaking ball hitter than a fastball hitter.
Vance Law.
Many sluggers hit the mistakes. He's no exception. He got a breaking ball a little bit up, probably inside part of the plate. Great try by Todd Cruz. A 2-1 ball game yesterday. We saw some brilliant infield play. Ripken, Cruz, both Cruzes, Julio and Todd.
Vance Law swings and misses. He was a strikeout victim back in the second, one of 7 recorded so far by Boddicker. 1-1 pitch. 2 balls and a strike to Vance Law with Scott Fletcher on deck and Kittle at first base. Nobody out. Top half of the 5th. Baltimore leads it 2-0. He's going. The ball is popped back foul as we pause briefly for station identification on the NBC television network.
WMAQ-TV Chicago.
That is strikeout number 8 for Mike Boddicker.
He not only drops down at times, as we've seen with the sidearm curveball, he will alter his stride a little bit and where he steps. That last time, see if he can pick it up. Well, not quite as much from this angle toward third base as it looked. Quite what they call the old crossfire. Try and back that right-handed hitter out.
Now Fletcher stands in with 1 out and 1 aboard. Takes ball 1. The record for strikeouts in a league championship series game, 14 in both leagues. Joe Coleman for Detroit against Oakland in 1972 is the American League mark. And in the National League, John Candelaria of the Pirates in 1975 against Cincinnati. Each struck out 14. Boddicker has fanned 8, and we're in the 5th.
Look out. That's what happens when you got curveball on your mind. That fastball was in the glove of Rick Dempsey.
Just got a piece of it, rolled slowly towards short, and Cruz cuts in front of Ripken and gets the force with the flip to Dower.
A fine play by Cruz, but what that has done is
Second baseman
Ripken is much stronger going to his left than his right. When Leo Hernandez was here earlier, Ripken had to sit in the hole because balls were getting by in the hole for base hits. They were losing double plays. With Todd Cruz, he can go and protect the middle because he knows Todd Cruz can do just this. Not only make a good play to get one, but he got the one he wanted to get, the lead runner. Some third baseman might have gone over and gone to first base and let that runner get in scoring position. That was a great play. Made it two-handed, too.
Julio Cruz 0 for 1. Ball one inside. Julio Cruz came over in a mid-season deal from Seattle. Swap of second baseman Tony Bernazard went to the Mariners.
A deal for which the general manager, Raleigh Heeman, and the brass for the White Sox were criticized because Bernazard was a very, very popular player. They needed that little bit of spice. Defensively, they knew that with Cruz they'd get it, and also more speed on the bases. They got that.
Taken for strike 2, 1-2. Cruz doesn't believe it. Dempsey out for a chat. Strikeout number 9. No pitcher has struck out more than 12 in any American League game this year. Boddicker did it once. So did Bannister. 9 for Boddicker so far. Baltimore teams. Some years they won division titles. Didn't even crack a million. Here's Dempsey. They don't come more intense than this fella. His wife Joanna tells a story about waking up about 3 o'clock in the morning one night. She heard this whooshing sound over the bed. In the dark, she realizes that Dempsey has gotten up out of bed and he's practicing his swing. First pitch from Bannister taken high, so Joanna says to him, "Rick, I know you went 0 for 4. You can turn on the light." Which he did and kept on practicing for another hour. This one is popped up. Pachorik in foul ground, and the wind may have taken that one out of play.
One thing Earl Weaver, when he managed, always wanted to put emphasis on in the catching department was not looking for an offensive player. If he had one, he of course would have taken it, but from the days of Andy Etchebarren, Al Rod Hendricks, and now Dempsey, he wanted a handler of pitchers. A man who'd call the kind of game that Earl Weaver wanted him to call, and Bamberger when he was here, and Ray Miller now. A guy who could throw against the teams that could run. Dempsey does that because he's so quick. Any offense that Earl got from his catchers was a little extra.
Joe Aldavelli, he's a candidate for Manager of the Year. I asked him if he wants the award. He said, "Oh no, let Bobby Cox of Toronto have it. The last time I got it, I was fired the next year," which is true. National League Manager of the Year in '78 with the Giants, fired at San Francisco in '79. Dempsey strikes out, the 5th struck out by Bannister.
Mike Boddicker winging along with a 2-run lead, 9 strikeouts. He just watched Bannister turn Rick Dempsey in knots with a tough breaking ball down and in. Vanslaw tied at 3rd in case Shelby tries to drop a bunt down. So is Pachorik at 1st.
Shelby struck out his first time and then hit a ball extremely well to left field that the wind probably held up. Could have been against the fence or maybe a home run on another day, but Kittle caught it. The 1-2 at third base, Law to Pachorik, and they got him 2 down. Well, in a 5-week stretch when they really settled things in the American League East, from mid-August to late September, the Orioles never lost 2 games in a row. So if that pattern can hold up here, then at least they go back to Chicago even up.
August 24th through September 22nd, they were 25 wins and 5 losses. But that's become tradition with the Orioles to have fast finishes. They platoon a lot. Their players are well rested. Pitching staff is never overworked. Strong in the bullpen and usually on the bench.
First pitch swinging. Tito Landrum pops it up in foul ground, and Pachorik's going to have room. The Orioles go out 1-2-3 in the 5th. And at the end of 5 in Baltimore, it's the O's 2 and the White Sox nothing.
He's gotten most of the 9 strikeouts in his curveball, but we asked him about that trick pitch he throws.
Okay, the way it came about is Ray Miller, our pitching coach, decided to give this pitch a name. And the Oriole organization, the pitchers call a changeup a fish. And I throw it like a forkball, so a fish and a forkball is a fosh. He calls it a fosh. The way I throw it is I hold it with the seams like this. When I get it out, I use my thumb to twist it over these 2 fingers like that, and it rolls out and acts like a screwball.
Relying in part on the fosh, Boddicker has the White Sox shut out as we go to the 6th. Law swings on the first, bounces it to Dower, who throws him out. As Fisk steps in, looking for his first hit, he struck out and fouled out. We'll tell you that Boddicker has allowed only 2 hits, singles by Rudy Law and Ron Kittle. He has struck out 9, and only 1 of the outs has been recorded on a fly ball. Luzinski flied to right in the 4th inning. Even the 2 base hits were hit on the ground.
Bob, when you look at the history of league championship series in both leagues, yeah, there have been a few high-scoring games, some blowouts, but generally speaking, they've been pitchers' battles. Relatively low scoring, and this appears to be heading in the same direction.
In the regular season, these 2 teams played 6 one-run games. Yesterday, they started the playoff series with 1 as the White Sox and Lamar Hoyt prevailed over Scott McGregor and the Orioles 2-1.
Boddicker not afraid to throw the breaking ball over when he's behind. At least throw it. He goes to the fastball, misses. Ray Miller, man we talked about, who you saw the illustrations in Science magazine, does a curveball breaker, doesn't it? Boddicker shows it does. Wow.
On 4 pitches, he passes Fisk. That's the 2nd walk issued by Boddicker.
Boddicker couldn't believe it, neither could Dempsey. Fisk did a good job of ducking that pitch.
You can't forget about him. He's stolen 100 bases in his career, runs very well for a catcher.
Last season, he stole 17. It was a strike. He stole 17, was caught just 2 times. This year, they were much more aware of Pudge Fisk. But he was going to stay right there so Baines can try and hit the ball through that hole.
Takes a strike.
Eddie Murray is as good as anybody, holding a run around, waiting till the last of the pitcher delivers, and then jumping out very quickly to cut that hole down. Keith Hernandez is probably the best in the major leagues today.
For a right-handed first baseman, Murray turns that 3-6-3 double play as well as anyone. Hernandez might have an edge on him because of the left-handed throwing.
Dempsey just saved a wild pitch, saved a base. He is quick.
2-1.
Well, if you're looking for a man to get you back in the ballgame with 1 swing, you got the situation right here. Bruce has got Baines up, right-hander, left-hander, percentage in his favor. If he looks inside, Dempsey setting outside.
2-2. Baines led the major leagues in game-winning RBIs this year. Had the deciding hit in 22 White Sox victories.
About that last pitch, taking something off it, running it away and down, got Baines, who was trying to pull the ball to go after a bad pitch. It should have been 3-1 if he'd laid off.
He struck him out. That's number 10.
Designated hitter, Greg.
He may have thrown the fosh on the pitch before that. You saw it react like a screwball, and then Baines out over the plates. He really breaks one off down and in. Got Baines, the way his ball is moving, to swing at 2 bad pitches. Now Cal Ripken wants to have a conference with Boddicker, maybe to ask him which way he's going to pitch him. You're going to stay away so he doesn't beat you with 1 swing. I'll play up the middle. You're going to make him hit something down and in. As we look at Sammy Stewart, he pitched yesterday. Going to go down and in, try and make him hit that. I'll shade in the hole.
And the ball hits it hard, but Cruz has it.
What a play again. He covered about 4 steps on a very sharply hit ball.
And he got it over to Dower for the force. So no runs, no hits, a walk. 1 is left after 5. You're struck by the lack of pretension in that kind of very innocent early dream.
Here's
Looking
earlier
back
in the
on
ball
some plays
game.
earlier.
First and second situation, 1 out. Van Slaw struck out, Pachark thrown out. Here's a double by Renicky. Overthrow. Pachorek backs it up. Now watch this throw. Over in the dugout. Renicky scores, and Singleton goes to second. So an error helps the Orioles to a run.
That was the Singleton double later in the game. And that scored Renicky in the fourth.
That was preceded by a walk. So
look out, Ripken really levels one to left. Kittle going over, and it's off the wall. Ripken is around second, and he's in with a double on a ball which on another night I think would have been gone. Well, he said he wanted to be a minor league ball player when he was a kid, but his talents will take him far beyond those early horizons and maybe all the way to the Hall of Fame.
Ripken, with that closed stance, has learned to look for pitches. Fisk sets up outside. He cuts a fastball inside. And many times, as Kittle caroms off the wall, backed up by Rudy Law, holding him to a double, somebody must have thrown something or said something to Ron Kittle, and now he wants an announcement made, and he's pointing out to a spectator, to the left field foul line umpire, Mike Riley. You may hear a PA announcement to ask the fans to settle back a little bit more. And Tony La Russa is going to go out, and not really to argue about anything, but really to calm down Kittle. They have got, I think, Kittle has pointed them out. The umpires now are saying, we know who he is, and one of these security guards is being taken out to left field, and I think they've got the person spotted out there. La Russa still trying to calm Kittle down. They'll make an announcement, but that security guard is heading out there along with some of the ushers here. Remember a few years ago when Jimmy Campbell of the Detroit Tigers, now the president of the ball club, was given away to general manager Frank LaJoie, but he closed the center field section. And then Haywood Sullivan in Boston, they put cameras out there to try and figure out who the culprits were. I would bet that even with Murray, the slugger, the cleanup hitter, in this situation, the team player he is, he'll try and hit a ball the opposite way with Nautz and a man on second. See what he does.
He struck out twice against Bannister. Taps this one foul.
Pretty good pitch. Pulled the string, trying to force him to pull the ball.
Hits this one in the air to center field. It's chasing Rudy Law back, but he's going to have room with Ripken tagging. He's got it. Here comes Cal for third. Law has a notoriously weak arm. Ripken is in there.
Would have been difficult for anybody with a strong arm to throw him out from there because it was relatively deep to left center field. And Ripken, with tremendous instincts, baseball instincts taught by his father, didn't hesitate a bit. Never went halfway, said, I'm tagging up and I'm going. Now they'll force the infield to come in.
Fielder, Gary Renicky.
Here's Ripken watching it all the way. And Cal Sr. tells him to hit the dirt. There's another Ripken, Billy, 18 years of age, who's in the Orioles system. He's an infielder playing Class A ball now. Gary Renicky has doubled and walked. And he scored both Oriole runs.
Sooner or later, they're going to have to get this guy's bat in the lineup every day. If he's moving to third base, he may have to do it.
Chopped and fouled.
Renicky looking for a pitch up in the strike zone that he can get under a little bit better than the low pitch and drive to the outfield for the sac fly. Constant battle, pitcher, hitter, catcher, trying to outguess each other, set hitters up.
Two-two pitch. Hit deep to left.
See you later.
Kittle going back. This one is on its way. This one is gone.
double in the second. He scored. A walk in the fourth. He scored. A 2-run home run in the sixth for Renicky. The people want him to come back out.
And the wind, which held up drives by Shelby and by Ripken. Shelby's ball caught, and Ripken's off the wall for a double. Could not stop that blast by Renicky into the teeth of the wind, and it cleared the wall by 20 feet.
You probably could hear the resounding crack as it left the bat. Bannister and Fisk knew it by that.
1-1 to Singleton, with the O's now in front 4-0. Vance Law takes it and throws Singleton out.
Second baseman.
A fastball out over the plate, about belt high, that Kittle went back on, but I think everybody knew there was no chance because he just crushed it. That ball over 400 feet, well over 400 feet. See where it lands in the little well. Got to play that guy every day and somehow find out or teach him to hit right-handed pitchers.
Now Rich Dower with 2 outs and nobody on, and 2 runs home in the last half of the 6th. 2-1 pitch. At shortstop, Fletcher backs up but has time and gets him. But on a double by Ripken and a home run by Renicky, the Orioles throw 2 more up on the board and lead 4-0 after 6.
2-2, Chuck, and I can't see him throwing anything but a breaking ball to Gary Renicky. With first base open and 1 away, he's going to make him hit something, and he hit it.
Boy, did he hit it.
He hit it. You can kiss it goodbye. Home run.
It's gone. Home run, Renicky. And the Orioles begin to fight back. Now Tom Paciorek against Mike Boddicker. First time he was hit by the pitch in the 2nd inning, and in the 4th inning struck out. Boddicker now has notched 10 strikeouts. Foul ball. Oh, probably hear Rex Barney say, give that fan a contract. Strike 1 to Paciorek.
2 quick strikes to Paciorek. Boddicker has already struck out 10.
So that great curveball he's got tonight, reminiscent of Cy Young Award winner Steve Stone, now a broadcaster, who had that great breaking ball when he won 25 for the Orioles a couple of years back.
Off the fists on the pop-up, it chases Dower back and Landrum in, and Tito will take it.
That last swing by Paciorek very graphically showed how much the White Sox hitters have tried to protect the plate, go into a crouch, cut down their swing, and just try to put the ball in play with this guy. Watch Paciorek. He's just very tentatively swinging at that breaking ball.
Well, Kittle, who struck out twice yesterday against Scott McGregor, has not been fanned by Boddicker so far tonight. He has a walk and a single. Hits this one softly into shallow left. Renicky loping in. 2 down.
Mike Boddicker is putting on a clinic as to what pitching really is. Upsetting hitters' timing. Talk about velocity. Well, if you're Nolan Ryan, fine. But you can list a few things before that, and we're seeing it tonight. Greg Walker on deck. In Edmonton last year, had a fractured wrist, didn't get many at-bats. He's a good-looking hitter. Hits the ball left center, right center field.
She's got to be awfully proud tonight. The wife of Mike Boddicker.
She is seeing her husband Greg Walker put a lot of movement on the baseball, change speeds, and he's at outstanding location on that curveball.
So Walker now bats for Vance Law.
Walker in the opening game of the season was the first baseman for this White Sox club, and then their defense really tumbled. Left side was weak. He made a couple of errors in the opening game, and then La Russa set him down, thought he wasn't ready yet. But he's been used very well in the tuning situations at time at first base, DHing on occasion.
Walker has an almost classic swing, and when he came up to the majors in tandem with Ron Kittle, they nicknamed them Sweet and Swat. Walker was the sweet for that smooth swing. Kittle the swat for the long ball.
Looking for 11 right here.
He got it. The 11th strikeout for Boddicker as he sets the White Sox down 1-2-3 in the top half of the 7th. Front, 4-0.
Right now is Aurelio Rodriguez, who is in to take over the third basing duties vacated by Vance Law. And on the mound, we have a pitching change as Salome Barojas has come on to replace Floyd Bannister.
Rojas, hard-throwing right-hander, features a sinker, tries to keep the ball down. Last time we saw him, he had some control problems. Chicago Ball Club led the American League, their bullpen in saves.
Well, against Salome Barojas, here is Todd Cruz.
Cruz, Dempsey, and Shelby to face him in the last half of the 7th. Cruz lays down a bunt. Rodriguez lets it roll and finally winds up foul.
So groundskeeper Pat Santarone does not have the foul line beveled in. It rolled out. Look at that. You think that he didn't have that red? It had to be a perfect bunt because when he saw that right foot drop back, which most bunters from the right side do, and the right hand slide up, he was coming.
2-2 pitch from Barojas to Cruz. Fletcher at shortstop. One down. With Barojas coming in here in the 7th, the book complete, of course, on Bannister. He worked 6 innings, gave up 4 runs, 3 of them earned, 5 hits. He struck out 5 and he walked 1.
Rick Dempsey.
There's Mrs. Dempsey. We told you the story about her earlier. She acknowledges that Dempsey is extremely hard-nosed. Sometimes will take the game home with him, literally, practicing the batting stroke at 3 o'clock in the morning. Rips this one down the right field line, and a foul ball. There is precious little foul ground between the line and the stands, and that ball found what little there is.
And Dempsey has caught a marvelous ball game as a Cy Young Award winner. Call him Cy Old around here in the bullpen, Jim Palmer. He pitched well his last start. Gave up 2 hits in about 7 innings. Went down in the rehabilitation program, Hagerstown, Maryland, early in the season. He's been the first to say, I don't deserve a start in this league championship series. Too many men pitched better than I did.
Barojas tips off his glove, and Cruz is there to pick it up and throw Dempsey out.
Is he quick, Bob? That's the way he used to play basketball, I understand.
Center fielder.
He started up the middle, Julio Cruz, and as soon as it ticked the glove of Barojas, Juan Augusto with Dave Duncan. We've mentioned, no, that's Art Kushner. Augusto, sinker ball, little slider. That's the spot where the White Sox were concerned because Kevin Hickey, who has really, he's a left-hander, not eligible for this league championship series. He's been on the disabled list for a good 2 months. Left-handed hitter spear hitting against him. That's why they moved Kuzma down there. He got crossed up. I think Fisk called breaking ball, and Barojas threw a sinker. Looked like it got him on the leg. Foot. But right near the end of the season, a decision La Russa had to make, as we'll watch this again. I guess he wasn't crossed up. He just tried to smother it and get out of the way. They were thinking of Britt Burns or Kuzma in the bullpen, and they decided on Kuzma.
Shelby turning around to bat left-handed, slaps it into center field for a base hit, so a 2-out single for Shelby. He led the Orioles in stolen bases this year with 15 and was caught only twice.
Right fielder.
And Joe Altobelli has nothing to lose with 2 outs. May start him to get in scoring position. If he's thrown out, you got this man leading off.
And he's going on the first pitch. The throw from Fisk. He stole it.
Fortunately, this catches the arm of Shelby as he slid and prevented it from going to center field where Fisk would have been charged with an error. Pudge Fisk has been throwing much better this year. Early in the season, he struggled. He boxed a lot of balls. He was so concerned. People saying he was washed up. Cruz lets the runner get between him and the ball. Pudge did not have a very good pitch to throw on. Down, he had to backhand it. Ball drifted into the runner.
Fletcher gets a chance. It took a little bit of an unusual hop, but nothing he couldn't handle. Over to Paciorek to retire the side. So no runs, a hit and a stolen base, but a man left at second. And at the end of 7, it's still Baltimore 4.
Hairston, the switch hitter. Will bat. It's hit 300 from the left side. So Walker's been used. They still have Mike Squires. If there's one area, another area that the Orioles are stronger, it's bringing some bats off the bench. Some power bats.
So Hairston bats for Scott Fletcher and takes a strike. It was Hairston who, back on April 15th, some more figures here on Boddicker, spoiled the bid for a perfect game by Milt Wilcox of Detroit. He pinch hit a single with 2 outs in the 9th inning to break up the bid for a perfect game. Dempsey thought he had the strikeout. He started to throw it around the horn. 1-2.
Radar gun registers that breaking ball at 71. Talked about Don Sutton an awful lot. I can recall, and I may get the figures a number wrong. He was with the Dodgers, and Andy Messersmith was there. Tommy John, he pulled the string on something. They did one of the most comprehensive studies with a radar gun that I've ever seen. That was the Foch, thrown, well, probably a little over 60. But they found the range of those, and all 3 of those guys had great curveballs, especially Sutton and Messersmith. The range of that curveball was somewhere between 72 or 78 miles per hour, those who had the good ones. So there's a certain speed where that spin bites a little bit more. They studied the difference between the fastball and the change. 8 miles, 12-mile-an-hour difference.
This ball is grounded foul. Hairston held up. No, he tipped it. He tipped it. Dempsey held it. And Hairston becomes strikeout victim number 12.
A marvelous shot from our center field camera, just gotten by John Gonzalez, our director, producer Ken Edmondson. Dempsey put the sign down for a fastball, put the thumb up, said I want it up and in. And boy, he hit the target. Even though Hairston might like the ball up, when it's up a little out of the strike zone, the high ball hitter will pop it up or do what Hairston just did. You'll strike him out on it. Now Dempsey saying look out for a bunt. Brings Todd Cruz in.
Here's Julio Cruz taking strike 1. On 2 different occasions in the 70s, Jim Palmer struck out 12 for Baltimore in a league championship series game. Boddicker has equaled that.
Dempsey is not stuck with a pattern that can be figured out. He's really mixed them up. And Boddicker's been able to change speeds on the fastball, the breaking ball, drop down from the side. We're seeing another gem, similar to the one that we got from Lamar Hoyt yesterday.
Cruz goes the opposite way with a nice piece of hitting and drops it into left field in front of Renicky for a 1-out single. But the threat of the running game has been largely taken away at this juncture. Top half of the 8th and trailing 4-0. Only the 3rd hit allowed by Boddicker. Singles by Rudy Law, Ron Kittle, and now Julio Cruz.
Show you how effective that curveball is. Of those 12 strikeouts, 7 have come against left-handed hitters. So that downer he throws when he gets on top of it, equally effective right or left hand.
The 2-1 pitch is hit hard, and that's another base hit for Rudy Law. Cruz wheels around second. They'll have runners at the corners with 1 out. So Rudy Law has dispelled any doubts about his ability to hit Baltimore pitching. That's his 5th hit of the series.
Sammy Stewart, he pitched yesterday. Tippy Martinez gave him 2 innings yesterday. They're going. Dempsey will now go out, talk to Boddicker, give the 2 relievers a little more time. It is so difficult for a hitter to sit on a pitch. Means he's looking for a pitch in a certain area off Boddicker the way he's been mixing them up.
Ball one way outside to Fisk. Outfield plays him straight away. Infield, of course, set for the DP. 2-0. Takes a strike, 2-1.
Interesting how Dempsey read what Fisk wanted to do. To stay out of the double play, and we'll talk about Charlie Lau this entire series. Lau wants him to hit the opposite way. There's a big hole between Dower and Murray because he's holding really low, and Fisk wanted to go that way. Dempsey called the ball inside.
Strike 2.
The curveball is on Pudge Fisk's mind. He threw 2 fastballs by him. There's your defensive alignment. Look at the hole between Dower and Murray, the first baseman. Now Fisk will just try and put the ball in play and stay out of a double play.
The runner is going. Strike 3 call. Dempsey doesn't throw, and so Law steals second base uncontested. But Fisk becomes strikeout victim number 13. And Boddicker is now just 1 shy of the all-time league championship record, shared by Joe Coleman of Detroit and John Candelaria of Pittsburgh.
And you just saw a harder, tighter curveball to Pudge Fisk. He didn't like the call, but it was right there, very, very close to take.
Baines grounds it to Dower. They're going to get out of the inning as he flips to Murray. Boddicker's shutout still intact. No runs, 2 hits, a stolen base, and a couple are left. It's 4-0 Baltimore.
All right, we're up 15. We got this game won.
Yeah, you guys are buying a light beer from Miller. Yeah, let's Philly.
1 out to go. Yeah, what can he do to his mouth?
Hey, I'll keep the change. Here's Rodney!
Any pinchers left?
Here I am.
Come on,
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Hey, wait a minute. This game isn't over yet. I caught that ball.
And we have another pitcher in the ball game. Bannister started. 6 innings, 5 hits, a walk, and 5 strikeouts. This is Wild Bill Hagee doing his thing. And Salome Barojas pitches an inning of relief, allows a base hit. Didn't walk anybody, strike anybody out, nor was he charged with a run. And number 53 is Dennis Lamb. A 6'3", 210-pounder out of Los Angeles, California. And Dennis had a difficult year against the Orioles. Orioles, I think, beat Dennis a total of 3 times on the season.
Well, he was 7-7 on the year, Chuck. 3.71 ERAs. Primarily a sinker slider pitcher. Tries to keep the ball down. Doesn't change speeds that much.
Well, Lamp made 5 appearances against the Orioles this year and lost 3 games. Had an earned run of 10. Mike Boddicker in the Oriole dugout. Pitched 5 shutouts in the regular season and has gone 8 innings of shutout ball tonight in this absolutely crucial second game for the Orioles. Dennis Lamp against Cal Ripken.
All 1 to Ripken. You mentioned Lamp's 15 saves. It's true that there is no one stopper in the Chicago bullpen. This guy would be the guy if we were looking to nominate somebody. It's kind of been a bullpen by committee, but they've had 48 saves as a group, and only Kansas City had more total saves with the great Dan Quisenberry in the entire league. So as a group, they've gotten the job done, even though there hasn't been one shining star.
Quisenberry with 45, breaking the major league record set by Canadian John Hiller with the Tigers. He had 38. There's the sinker.
On the ground to third, Rodriguez. Long throw in the dirt.
He's off the bag.
He is. You're right.
You just saw rarity. This guy makes a bad throw. I ought to call the doctor. One of the most accurate strong arms in the game. He pulls Pachorka and makes a nice scoop off the bag.
First baseman,
good camera work, fellas.
Eddie Murray.
Okay, this is a chance for Tony La Russa in this ball game to give some of his players some work, take a little bit of the jitters away. Lamb cannot sit in that bullpen too long, or as he throws a little too hard and the sinker ball straightens out.
Ripken off again. Lofted into center field. Law started back. Now he scampers in, and Kittle comes in front of him, and he takes it.
Both Julio Cruz and Dubzinski tried to decoy. Listen to this reception for the man stepping in.
Gary Reneke.
Here's what Rhino has done tonight. He drilled a double down the left field line and scored in the second. He walked and scored on Singleton's double in the fourth. And he belted a two-run homer to score Ripken ahead of him in the sixth. Ball one.
Do you think off the showing on Reneke's day today that when Rip Burns pitches and if we go to game 5 in this thing that he might move him to third base to get more offense? Quite a brazen move to put Reneke out there, wasn't it?
Game 4, right? If we go to
but if we go to game 5, it'll be Hoyt who will oppose that. Talked about it yesterday as Boddicker very eagerly awaits going out for inning number 9. But of the matchups in this short series, number 4 starters, Burns and Storm Davis, maybe as capable or more so of throwing a shutout as any of the others.
3-0 pitch, got it in there.
That's how deep these two teams are in starting pitching.
For most of the season, Lamp was putting out fires from the Chicago bullpen. But during spring training, he started one accidentally. He was trying to light a match, and he caught catcher Mark Hill's beard on fire. Strike 2 call, so Hill had to shave off what remained of the beard, but it's since grown back. Ripken is off again, and he walked him.
Designated hitter.
Vin Scully and Joe Garagiola will be back in action tomorrow afternoon from the vet. 3 Eastern time. That series even up at 1, the Dodgers and the Phillies.
Charles Hudson for Philadelphia. Bob Welch scheduled for the Dodgers. Get over an artificial surface, the only artificial surface of the 4 teams involved in this. A man named Hugh Alexander, a great scout, baseball man, told the Pope Paul Owens, you got to have a pitcher ready in the minor leagues at all times to bring up. And they had Hudson in mind, and when Hugh Alexander said bring him up, Hudson really had great success.
Singleton now takes a strike. He's reached on an error, doubled, and grounded out. Singleton stepping out. Second baseman Rich Dower is the on-deck hitter. We can only hope for weather this beautiful when we go to Chicago tomorrow night. Had a 42-minute rain delay yesterday, but tonight 71 degrees at game time, just perfect. Lined, nice, grabbed by Dubzinski, and he turns it into a double play. So Dubzinski, who just checked into the game replacing Fletcher, who was pinch hit for, takes a base hit away from Singleton and turns it into a double play.
Well, here comes the 9th inning of game 2, and the Orioles with a 4-0 lead behind the brilliant effort of their young right-hander Mike Boddicker, who in the regular season pitched 5 shutouts and is an inning away from his 6th shutout. Lazinski against Boddicker tonight. Struck out, fly to right, hit into a forced play.
Boddicker is 1 away from the playoff strikeout record of 14, shared by Joe Coleman and John Candelaria. Series record, of course, is more than that. Bob Gibson struck out 17 Tigers in 1968. The playoffs, one away. Out. He hits Luzinski. It's the second man he's hit in this game. He hit Paciorek back in the second.
Paciorek with a curveball. He just ran a fastball into the elbow of Luzinski. Some of the people are leaving here to beat the traffic, I think probably unaware of what you just told our television audience, that he is one strikeout away of tying a record. But a marvelous performance today by that man and the left fielder Gary Renicky.
Paciorek takes a strike. Murray, of course, playing behind Luzinski. Paciorek hits it softly, but it could be trouble. Shelby coming in. It drops in front of him. They make a throw to second, but Luzinski is in there. So on a hit batter and a bloop single, the White Sox have the first two men on against Boddicker in the ninth.
The Oriole bullpen gets up and they start not just soft tossing. They're getting ready in a little more of a hurry now.
Left fielder, Ron Kittle.
Stewart up once again. He was up 2 innings prior to this, along with Tippy Martinez. Dempsey with another conference with Boddicker. Although Boddicker did not have a big inning buildup during the course of the season, as hard as he's been throwing those breaking balls, it's got to take a little bit out of your arm.
Kittle is 1 for 2 with a walk. Takes a breaking ball for a strike. A slow roller. Cruz comes in. Quick throw. Got it.
He has played a brilliant third base in these 2 ball games, even though that one line drive got by him off the bat of Paciorek yesterday. Look at how quickly he reacts. For a player moving from shortstop to third base, I think this is the toughest play to adjust to. The top ball. At shortstop, you've got a little more time, and you've got the third baseman to cut in front of you and take that ball if it's hit at shortstop. But he reacted quickly. He knew he could not waste any time, and with that powerful throwing arm, threw a bullet. Mike Squires, the only left-hander available now, getting loosened up. Mark Hill is left on the bench, and Dave Stegman, 2 right-handed hitters.
For the White Sox, batting for Aurelio Rodriguez, number 25.
Mike Spanky Squires. We checked, and unfortunately, the White Sox have no one nicknamed Alfalfa or Buckwheat, but this is Spanky Squires.
I told you earlier that 7 of the strikeouts, Boddicker, have been against left-handed hitters.
That goes flying, and it's strike 1.
I couldn't really tell if that was the curveball or if that was the Fosh that he talked about earlier, that modified forkball. Curveball. Curveball. You could see that wrist flop over. Finger poised up. He looked like he threw a knuckle curve right there. It's like Don Sutton throws.
Little squibber, which Boddicker fields and throws him out. So, although the Oriole infield obviously was playing back, willing to concede the run, on that ball, nobody was going anywhere, so the shutout remains intact. And Hairston is the only guy who stands between Boddicker and a complete game blanking. He's thrown a lot of pitches, 130 by our unofficial count.
Ray Miller, the Orioles pitching coach, has a little bit of a formula. He likes his pitchers to throw at least 60% fastball. You could see Boddicker shaking the arm as though the elbow was tiring or stiffening up.
Hairston pinch hit for Fletcher in the 8th and was Boddicker's 12th strikeout victory. Boddicker. Strike 1 and 1. Julio Cruz is on deck, and if he gets to bat, it'll be the tying run. one strike away from the shutout and the record-tying strikeout. Better than 50,000 on their feet at Memorial Stadium. Almost hit his third batter of the night. High anxiety time. Strikes, 2 outs and 2 on. 4-0 Baltimore, top half of the ninth. Ooh, it just missed. Oh, she felt the same way as everybody else here. 3-2 pitch. He walked him and they're loaded. Cruz now, he hit only 3 home runs during the season, and what little power he has is almost exclusively from the right side of the plate. Strike one. Due to the fact that the ball game is run a bit late, the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson will not be seen tonight.
He's got the situation set up now, doesn't he? Tying run at the plate in Cruz, but he's way ahead 0-2, and he's not going to take it downtown.
Here it comes. Cruz gets a piece of it, and it is a foul ball by inches.
Jimmy Leland, the third base coach, is not sure that it was. He goes over and talks. That is an awfully, awfully close one. Leland walked out to the third base umpire, Davey Phillips, and said, any chance you overrule him?
Had that one been fair, not only would the shutout have gone out the window, but the tying run would have been in scoring position. Cruz would have had at least a double the way he can run. 1-2.
One pitch for the record. There it is. Tied it. Boddicker closes it out in fitting fashion. It was a struggle in the 8th and the 9th. He left the bases loaded here in the final inning, but he fans 14, goes the distance with the shutout, and he's in the record book along with Coleman and Candelaria. Back to Baltimore in a minute.